James Conn. Go ahead, now rock it.
All right, here's my stupid question.
Hold on, you guys are shirts and skins. Duke it out. See who gets to go for it.
Right here.
All right, go.
What are you doing after the show, and can we hang out?
It's Ben. Did you bring weed?
Right here.
I didn't carry on the plane, so I'm totally dry. So you can tell me where to score, and I'll be your best friend.
Rice Krispie Streets in my backpack.
Rice Krispie treats, first the weed, then we'll get to that. What am I doing after the show? I'm going to go home and go to sleep. I'm exhausted. I'm kind of tired. I know I'm lame. Lame and fat, that's what happens. 38, lame and fat. You just want to go back to sleep. Do you hear that? Check, check, 1, 2. Okay. Who's the other guy? Yeah.
That was me.
Hi.
You clearly know this better than I would know this, but doesn't the ratings board judge the number of judge between an R rating and NC-17 by the number of thrusts in a sex scene, and you have to count thrusts?
I don't know if they go by a specific number, but thrusts was an issue they brought up when they initially gave us an NC-17 on the flick. They cited 2 areas of the movie. One is the first porno sequence with Jason Mewes and Katie Morgan. They said there's far too much thrusting in that scene. And I was like, you don't like that? Come to my house. I never thrust. I just lay there and let shit happen to me. They weren't buying that argument. The other moment they objected to was what we affectionately refer to as the shit shot. I know they weren't having it. They said that'll never play in an R-rated movie, so it became my mission then to make sure that it played in an R-rated movie. So they gave us the NC-17. We tried to work with them, but that wasn't working out. And then I opted to go the appeals route, which is where you accept the rating, and then you go to this group where it's taken out of the ratings board's hands, and then placed into the hands of an audience of 14 people that's split evenly between members of the MPAA who aren't on the ratings board, and the other half of the audience is made up of members of NATO, which sounds like, holy shit, is that important? You know, will the Joint Chiefs of Staff be here as well? And NATO is apparently the National Association of Theater Owners, which those cats I tend to believe more because they're the last line of defense for any movie. Like, exhibitors actually deal with the public in terms of like when some motherfucker gets up and says, I hate this movie, I want my money back. They know what gets people on their feet. So that's the audience that, yes, thank you. That's the audience that you play to. You screen the flick, then you're allowed to get up and you get 15 minutes as the filmmaker to talk about why you think it deserves to be knocked down to an R. The head of the MPA, which is represented by this woman, Joan Graves, she gets up, she does 15 minutes on why she feels it's an NC-17, then you get 10 minutes to rebut, and she gets 10 minutes to rebut, which in the case of this movie sounds dirty and fun, but really it just means you answer her back. And then you leave the room and people make a secret ballot and decide whether or not to flip it. So I got up there and said, look, when you make a movie called Zagmir, make a porno, you know you're going to come under extra close scrutiny come ratings time. So we went out of our way to make sure that everything we did fit safely within the confines of an R-rated movie, albeit a hard R-rated movie. And I said, look, your argument is that the movie's too titillating for anyone under 18 to see. And I said, if I was 13 years old in 1983 and I watched this movie like when we first got cable in my hometown, yes, it would send me to the bathroom to tug one out. But now, and they all leaned forward like, he's talking about tugging one out. He must be honest. And I said, but now in 2008, like, this movie's not going to titillate anybody because you can open up your laptop and see real people having real sex, and this stuff's not going to make any kid hard bunny stretch their imagination. And they seemed to buy it. They were like, well thought out, So the shit shot, I addressed the shit shot because now you're allowed to cite precedent. You can cite other movies that have done similar things, and I pointed to Jackass, which was an R-rated movie. There's a sequence in Jackass called the fart helmet. I don't know if anyone remembers. Steve's wearing the bubble, and there's a hose attached to it at the funnel. His buddy starts farting in it, and he starts puking in the helmet. It's a masterwork. But at one point, like, you don't see the dude grunting. They cut away, but you see in the funnel, the dude like took a dump, like a real dump. And my point was like, Jackass, for all intents and purposes, is a documentary. They don't fake it. It's not scripted. They actually do that shit. So that shit was real shit. Our shit's fake shit. That got an R. We got an NC-17. Doesn't make sense. And they seem to buy that. So I'm outside with the head of the ratings board, this Joan Graves woman, and we're just bullshitting. It's not like an adversarial relationship where I'm like, ooh, I hate this fucking cunt. Like, she's really nice. She totally reminds me of my mom and shit. And she's always shamingly like my mother as well. Like, why does it have to be so dirty, Kevin? It's a very romantic movie. Why can't you take some dirty stuff out? I was like, fuck you. But I was so close because I didn't know if I had kind of convinced the audience or not. Like, because it is like, it's a little like Inherit the Wind. It's kind of like a trial. It's not really so much Inherit the Wind as much as it's the second half of Law and Order. And so I got up, and you feel like Jack McCoy, and then you realize I'm not Jack McCoy. I'm the motherfucker who's on trial, you know. So you have to kind of bob and weave and make a good argument. So I didn't think I made a good enough argument. So I'm sitting there going like, I'm gonna cave. I'm gonna tell this woman that like, I'll cut a bunch of the thrusting if you let me keep the shit shot. Like, try to negotiate, because that's what they do on Law and Order. There's always some motherfucker who's like, we'll strike a deal. So I was looking to strike a deal, and just as I'm about to tell her, the door opens up, another woman comes out, and she's like, they overturned it. It's an R rating. I was like, thanks, Joan. See you next time. I took off. So that's how we got to an R. But I don't know about the thrust count. She never brought that up. She was never like, you know, you get 25 thrusts, and there are 128 in that sequence. I didn't count them. But I will now. It's an excellent question. I'm going to go home now and count those thrusts. But it's Jason Mewes, so you don't know like what really counts as a full thrust or not. Because there's a lot of half-whole kind of thing. Yes.